So naming some names real quick. Hunted versus non-hunted wildlife here. In North America, we've got about 1,300 species of birds and mammals. About 145 of those are hunted in one or more states. So what makes a game animal a game animal? Generally, there's some consumptive use, right? You either eat the animal, or you use the fur, or use the hide, or all of the above. Also, traditional values and historical designations have something to do with it. So if it's an animal that's been hunted, historically, and it's sustainable, it'll continue to be hunted. Palatability is important too. And then certainly population dynamics needs to come into play here. We are hunting species that are resilient to being harvested. So we're talking about high reproductive rates, often polygynous mating systems, and they produce this harvestable surplus. Perfect example, the ever expendable male. If you have a population of deer, and a lot of those males are taken out, you can take quite a few males before you really start to put a ding into the number of fawns the next year, because an individual male will mate with many females. In terms of protecting the females from harvest, it helps if there's sexual dimorphism. So 3 of the critters up here, the elk, the mallard, and the turkey, it's pretty easy to identify the male. Whereas with other species like grouse and woodcock, it's really difficult unless they're actually in your hand to tell whether they're males or females. So when we can target the males specifically, we can harvest more of those. Then the idea of compensatory versus additive mortality. This is where I lived when I was an undergraduate student at University of Michigan. It's the George Reserve, just outside of Ann Arbor. It's where some of the pioneering deer population dynamics work was done. But the idea behind compensatory versus additive mortality is if you have a population and you shoot some individuals, you take some individuals out from that population, the surviving individuals will continue to survive at a higher rate because of the removal of their competitors. So many of the species that we hunt, it's largely compensatory mortality. And again, the importance of people as a predator. We know about these anti-predator campaigns that have gone on during the last 150 or so years here in the United States. And in many places now, humans are the key predator to keep some of these keystone species in check. White-tailed deer in Wisconsin are a prime example. We have some wolves coming back, but certainly our wolf numbers are not sufficient to limit the deer herd to any reasonable size. So hunters play an important role there. We are predators. And it's important that we do so. We all know about some of the social problems with deer, vehicle collisions being one example. My landlord is a really good example of this. Private lands management by hunters results in many acres that would otherwise be developed or otherwise be tilled being set aside and protected as wildlife habitat because those landowners are hunters. So the private property and the way that the private properties are managed, the more hunters that we have owning private property and treating it with respect, the better. One quick thing, thoughts on food plots, right? The idea with food plots is to plant some crop, basically for deer generally, planting these food plots to try to get deer to come into your area. I've got some sort of problems with the idea of just manipulating the whole landscape around deer hunting. That's a personal prejudice I have. But the idea of actually going out there and spending a bunch of time tilling and getting your hands dirty and planting a crop and putting all that time in with the piece of land that you're managing, I think there's a lot of value to that. So, sort of mixed emotions on that one. A quick point I will make. We hear a lot about consumptive versus non-consumptive use. And at the beginning here, I introduced myself as somebody who enjoys backpacking, canoeing, photography, but also consumptive uses like hunting and fishing. If you think about the amount of space required for these different types of events or types of uses, I think it's pretty plain to see that consumptive users require more space than do non-consumptive users. So if we were going to maintain hunters on the landscape and fishermen on the landscape, that's going to take more land preservation than ecotourism or bird watching would, where you can crowd a lot of people into one area. So I think having this premium on a lot of space to support the hunting and fishing has some value. So I know I just covered a lot of ground. I want to point out real quick the Hunters Network of Wisconsin, because Brett has been working a lot on this, and Randy as well. Great website. Sign up if you're interested in learning more about hunting in the state. What I would like to do, as I mentioned earlier, I teach some hunter safety classes here on campus. And if there's anybody who has any interest in signing up for hunter safety class, we're going to get one going within the next month or so. And I would love to get some people who, maybe you're not even sure that you want to try hunting, but if you just want to learn more about hunting, then drop me a line. And if you're in the Forest and Wildlife Ecology department, there's some opportunities as well this fall. So get signed up with Hunters Network. Let me know if you're interested in hunter safety. Thank you for paying attention and your interest. And I would love to try to answer questions that you might have.